Up, guys? Well, back once again. We're here for another fight card prediction. We're here for UFC Fight Night. Anthony Smith against Glover Teixeira is our main event there for this next card, our second card, sorry, in the space of 7 days, which is pretty awesome. UFC 249 was great. It was great to have fights back, whether you feel whether there should have been fights or there shouldn't have been fights. It was great fights, and there was some big finishes, some big statements made in those fights, and we're back with another fight card here. Just a couple of things before that. Sorry for not getting this fight card out to you yesterday. It was my birthday, so I thought I was going to jump on here and make a video, but I decided to just spend some time with the family and celebrate me getting 1 year older. So yeah, but I'm back on with this one here, and I'll say a little sorry beforehand, just in case. I've got my kid watching Moana, which is usually always all singing, all dancing, so it might be a little bit noisy. And my dog is actually getting a bath as well, so she might be barking a little bit. If she does, I apologise beforehand. So, yep. Let's get into the fight card. Hit that like button like Bufo said there. I see you guys in the chat. And if you're new to the channel, let's help grow the channel. Let's get some more subs in. That's what I'm after here. So try and grow this channel as much as I can do. And if you're new, hit that sub button. But also, if you want to make predictions, I want to see more guys make predictions. There's more and more of you out there that can do this, because you dropped some great breakdowns in the comment section below, and I want to see you guys make videos as well. But if you get any questions, if you disagree with some of my picks, you agree with some of my picks, hit the drop down box, hit a comment, and leave something there. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I'm probably going to do a live stream or two this week because I'm on holiday for this next week, so I'm going to try and do some little bits and pieces, so I'll be around. I'm just going on what Wikipedia has here, and we'll get into it here. Lightweight bout. Gabriel Benetiz against Omar Morales. This was one that kind of got through together. With these cards come together so quickly, it's they're putting cards together, putting fights together that you just kind of really want to expect, or guys in divisions you really want to expect. And I wasn't expecting to see Gabriel Benetiz in the lightweight division, because he's a smaller guy for that division, and he's against a guy who is a pretty big lightweight in Omar Morales. Both guys, especially with Morales, big physical dude, predominantly a striker. I think he's undefeated, if I remember off the top of my head. I think it's like 9-0. Watched his fight with Harvey Park and his fight with Dong Hyun Ma, and a couple little bits and pieces before that. But a big physical dude. You've seen Harvey Park in that fight in the Contender Series really tried to grapple him against the fence, really had nothing for him in the feet, and ultimately he fell by the wayside very quickly after those leg kicks. Big thumping leg kicks really landed. Early, I think it was that second round, and he went down there. And then I thought he had a pretty decent UFC debut against Dong Hyun Ma. The thing is with Dong Hyun Ma, he's a tough, grizzled guy that's been in the UFC for a long time, and come out there, got the win. But he is quite old. I think he's mid-30s, 35, 36 years old, where that's not going to be too great in a division like this, even though he's probably still quite young in fight years. He's a guy that I like a lot of his striking. I think he's got very powerful, precise striking. But I think he is someone that if you've got a good grappling in your kind of arsenal, that I think you can negate this guy's striking. But if you're in open space, I think he can really hurt you. You have to be careful. Benetiz is a guy we've seen around the UFC for a long time. Like I say, maybe he's just taking this fight here because he wants a fight and it's up a division, so that the weight cut's not going to be a significant depletion for him. But he is coming off a loss against Sadiq Youssef. We'd actually thought, I mean, I think it was only 4 minutes of that fight that took place, but I thought in that 4 minute, he got some good shots off. But ultimately, just the overall power of Sadiq Youssef came through in that fight, and you have to be very careful with him, because if you start swinging with this guy, he's got that big African power that can ultimately take you out, and that's what happened there. But he landed some shots on Sadiq, no doubt about it. He's a guy who I don't think is super talented, but I think he's dangerous with some of the strikes that he throws. I've always been impressed with his leg kicks. I've always been impressed with his attacks to the body. But like I said, I don't know how this fight's really going to match up. Let me just bring up the kind of stats between them. I want to see the massive difference here. I'm seeing a lot of people super confident in Omar Morales, and I'm like, I'm not sure I'm all in on kind of that either. I mean, Morales, he's a 3-inch height advantage with a 2-inch reach advantage. And he lands at a pretty good proficiency. But I think Benetiz could give him some problems here. I really do. I think if he could, Benetiz grappled a little bit more and been half decent and more in the grappling side of things, I think I would really, really like him in this fight. Ultimately, I've got it being really close. But I think the power strikes of Morales are going to count for a little bit more. But, like I say, I'm struggling with this one. I don't know what the betting odds are. I think probably more people will be on Morales than will Benetiz. I don't know whether... I'm going to take a shot in the dog here. I'm going to take a shot on Gabriel Benetiz. I think he can maybe just land more crisper strikes. I think he can land more, but he has to avoid the power striking of Omar Morales. But like I say, this is a fight I think it could be relatively close. I could maybe see the physicality of Omar Morales kind of coming through. But I'm going to take Gabriel Benetiz. I'm going to take Mowgli, using that more experience of fighting maybe more kind of high caliber guys. Not really high caliber, but when you're talking your Jason Knights and your Sam Sicilias, but more UFC experience, big show experience, and Benetiz kind of being in maybe more of an environment like this, where maybe the Ultimate Fighter, the Latin edition he was on years ago, I think that Omar Morales maybe got the opportunity in one of the Latin ones back in the day, if I remember right. I could be completely wrong there, actually. It could have been a Contender Series, just I'm thinking of. But I like Benetiz just as an underdog here. I'm going to take a wee bit of a shot. Not super confident, but I think he could possibly get it done here against Morales, who is dangerous. He looks a specimen as well, that guy. This fight, oh my goodness gracious me. Chase Sherman against Ike Villanueva. I don't think I've ever watched... Now, we all know about Chase Sherman and what happened in his UFC tenure the first time. So I thought, right, I'm interested to see why they're bringing him back. Oh, he's got 3 first-round finishes out there in island fights. But the opposition he faced in island fights was ridiculous. I mean, I think it's Frank Tate... I cannot remember the names of the other guys. Rashawn Jackson, I think, was another one. Let me bring this up. Jeremy May. Jeremy May actually dropped him in early on that fight. He caught him with like a push kick to the face, knocked him down. But ultimately, he comes through with 3 first-round victories. But Frank Tate was in his mid-40s. I think he's got less than a 500 record. Jeremy May is a guy that's kind of a known kind of regional guy that's went, well, not really regional, he's went kind of all around the world into Russia and so on. And Rashawn Jackson, he really just bartered with leg kicks. But then you go to Ike Villanueva, there's no way that guy should be fighting at heavyweight. There's probably no way the guy should be fighting at 205. I think he's a natural middleweight if he was to just land the shot at, if he was to commit to making 185, I think he could. He is, and he's like mid-30s, so like 36. And he didn't think this opportunity was going to come around. But when you look at Villanueva, he's hard-nosed. He's a hard-nosed kind of Mexican guy who has beat a couple of names where they've been in and around the UFC, like Rashad Coulter, where he kind of hurt him initially, but he threw a lot of strikes after that and couldn't knock out Rashad Coulter. I don't really want to talk too much of this. Chase Sherman is super, super hittable. Like, he really, really is. His chin is in the air. He is there to be hit at. But when I look at the matchup, I think, where does Villanueva really hurt him? He could maybe hurt him a little bit with the hands, but I just don't see it. I didn't enjoy watching tape on this fight at all. I really didn't, because I've never been the biggest Chase Sherman fan. I don't think we'll see him all around the UFC for that long, but I think this is a winnable fight for him. As I don't think Villanueva's really UFC caliber, in my opinion. My dog's barking, so if you hear that, I apologise. So, I'm going to go Chase Sherman. This could get sloppy, though. I think it will get sloppy, but I'm going to take him via TKO. Maybe accumulation of leg kicks could definitely come into play in the mid part of this fight, and towards maybe 2 into 3, he could get a TKO victory there. So I'm going to pick Chase Sherman. But if you're contemplating maybe watching tape in that fight, I'd maybe just go elsewhere, because it's not great, if I'm being honest with you. Hunter Azure against Brian Kelleher. This is one I never really got into looking at as much as I wanted to because of work. And when I actually sat down on Saturday afternoon to watch this, my little girl wanted to play, so I couldn't really get that extra couple of fights that I wanted. But I've been kind of fading Brian Kelleher recently, and I did it against Odie Osborne, which was really a bad shout in my part, but considering how less experience Odie Osborne has, especially with the UFC and so on, and Kelleher had showed him that there's different levels to this, and ultimately got him out there with a beautiful submission choke, and that's one of the moves that he has been known for in the past, is Brian Kelleher. And the guys that he lost, I mean, Lineker and Montel Jackson, I'm very high in Montel Jackson, and John Lineker is just on that violence all-star kind of star fighters that we've had in the past, who's now obviously in one, but a tough fight for a lot of guys, especially down there in Brazil as well. But Azure, what I like about him, and nothing super really stands out. I think he's okay in many of the aspects, but nothing stands out. I think he's good at putting it all together. I think he's tough. I think he's got a lot of toughness to his game. I think he can mix up a little bit. I think that his win over Katona has a lot of good things in his game, but he just can't seem to really put it all together. And that's kind of really what I took from that fight there. I thought he was very tough, and he kind of put it a bit more all together than what Katona and that did. But Kelleher, like I say, Kelleher's a guy that I've tried to fade, and it's just not worked for me. And he's got a lot of experience, especially being in the UFC, but even outside, he had big fights with some UFC fighters outside the UFC, with like Julio Arce, Sukumtath, I think it was not Sukumtath, Arce actually a couple of times. And when you look at the guys he's faced in the UFC, I mean, Alcantara, Vera, Barao, Lineker, Montel Jackson, he's fought decent guys. I just like the toughness of Azure a little bit more than kind of Kelleher. I'm going to try and continue to fade Kelleher and see how I go with this one. But yeah, I want no part of that betting wise. But I've seen some people have the know ahead to kind of go ahead and bet quite heavy on Hunter Azure. I just think it could be close, but I like the toughness and the gameness of Hunter Azure a little bit more than I do Brian Kelleher, so I'm going to take him in that one there. I am not going to spend too much time talking about this fight because it is shit. Sijara Eubanks against Sarah Moras. I'm going to take Sijara, even though she completely burned me the last time out against Kelleher. I cannot believe I actually bet that fight and had any kind of confidence in Sijara Eubanks, and I was probably, I wouldn't say disrespecting, but maybe just forgetting about the toughness of Kelleher, who's really quite hard to put away. And if she's still there with the kind of gas tank that she has, that's one of the things that she can keep going. And I forgot that Sijara Eubanks cannot keep going at times. The only kind of real thing I can see here is Sarah Moras, if she was catching an opportunistic maybe armbar. I don't rate Sarah Moras. I don't rate Sarah Moras. Even though I've seen a picture of her, I think it was Instagram, she looks in the best physical shape we've kind of ever seen her in. And maybe when I seen Alexei Olnik last week, I was like, oh. And then when I seen Fabrizio Verdum last week, I was like, oh, I maybe made the wrong pick there. And it kind of showed out there that Verdum looked rusty. Olnik came out there looking to take him out. I don't really see that here. Look, Sijara Eubanks, I think she's a black belt. So I think she is better on the ground than what Moras is. So if I was to go there, I would fancy Sijara Eubanks to really stifle her down there. I don't rate Sarah Moras all that much, even though she's coming off a third round win against Juju, I think it was, off the top of my head. I'm going to pick Sijara Eubanks. I'm going to pick her via decision. I don't really care about that fight too much. Michael Johnson against Thiago Moises. If this was a couple of years ago, I would be very, very confident in Michael Johnson, but he's really not putting it all together. He's obviously got a skill set which can beat some of the best guys in the world when he's on his day. I mean, he was beating Josh Emmett pretty handily, using those fast hands, in and out striking, but ultimately got caught right on the chin. But like I say, on his day, he beats good guys. I mean, he can give good guys fits. I mean, who did he beat? Ferguson, Pori back in the day. I gave Gaethje some big strikes there. How good was Gaethje at the weekend, by the way? Jeez, man, the way he kind of wasn't in berserker mode, but was just fighting really well. That was a great performance. But since then, I mean, lost to Elkins, that can happen. beat Philippe via split, which I actually think he lost. Beat Lobov, nah. Like I say, was winning that Josh Emmett fight and lost to Stevie Ray, which is probably a fight that I think he maybe actually should have got there. But it's hard to really rely on him because if you can catch him with a really good shot, you can really hurt him and put him against the kind of back foot there. I don't know. I've always liked Moises as a fighter. I think that his entry into the UFC, in my opinion, is maybe a little bit quicker than what it should have been. And he's had hard fights in his 2 UFC fights, but I mean, he's only 25. I think they should have maybe given him a couple more years to maybe mature out there. And he beat he lost to Damir Ismagulov and lost to Beneil Dariush with his only win against Kat Holoba. And Dariush, I thought, was just a tough fight, even though Dariush is a tough fight for a lot of guys. I thought he just had too much for him. And Damir had just had better all-around hands, and that's kind of really how that fight kind of went down. I don't know about this one. I think this is all I think striking wise, I think if MJ puts it all together, can really hurt him up a little bit. He can be fast, he can be in and out. I think that Moises maybe wants to try and take this to the ground. But MJ comes from a wrestling background, and he is quick. He is quick. He is very, very quick to on his feet and with his movement and stuff. But I don't trust really kind of either guy here. But my gut feeling when I was watching the fights was Michael Johnson. I think he takes a decision. I think it could be relatively close, but I think his fast, fluid hands wins him the fight. So I'm going to take Michael Johnson in that one there. Where am I? Andrei Arlovski against Philippe Lins. Lins is a guy that's coming in obviously from the PFL. Won himself $1 million. Fair play to the guy. And I was watching him. I actually got a bet on this fight, which I made late last night. I'm picking Philippe Lins. I'm not picking Andrei Arlovski in any really big UFC fights. And he's burned me in the past in some things. But like it's weird with Arlovski because sometimes he doesn't do anything. And then sometimes he just makes silly decisions. He made a silly decision against Rosenstruck and got knocked out for it. But there's times when he can sit back and he can pop the long jab and he can frustrate guys. Absolutely frustrate guys. But when I look at Philippe Lins, the guys who he's beat, let me see, Alex Nicholson was a guy that I remember that fight. Josh Copeland, he won in the 4th round last time. Jared Rochelle, guys all been in the UFC, not really doing all too much, but he's managed to get in there and stop them. And he's a guy that I think he sits back a little bit too much. I do think he's got some tools there that could win him the fight, but I think that he just sits back a little bit too much, and I think that could play in the hands of Andrei Arlovski a little bit. Because if Arlovski is longer and he's getting those shots off, Lins is definitely going to be the aggressor in this, not by too much, because, like I say, sometimes he can absolutely sit back and let the fight kind of pass by a little bit too much. And someone like Arlovski might enjoy that kind of type of fight. But I do think Philippe will get more strikes off. He will be the more ace-ending fighter in this one. And I actually bet him at plus 550 to win via decision. I think that's a fairly decent bet. I did it last week with Greg Hardy, and I got plus 260 on that, I think it was. And I really wish I put more on that, because the more the fight week went on, I actually was really impressed with Greg Hardy last week, by the way. I thought he fought a really good fight, made some good adjustments, and De Castro kind of faded off a little bit. But yeah, I like him to win via decision. I think it's going to be a slow-paced, kind of back-and-forth fight with the striking, but I think Philippe Lins will just actually land more. But if Arlovski wants to run into another punch like he's done in the past, it wouldn't surprise me. But I took a little shot on Philippe Lins to win via decision, and yeah, I'm going to pick him via decision. So Philippe Lins via decision there. Moving on to the main card, this is a really good fight. Karl Roberson against Marvin Vettori. A lot of people are on Karl Roberson. I am not. I'm on Marvin Vettori here. And how I see him winning this fight, I think on the feet, I think Roberson, he is better. Slightly more technical, a little bit more varied with his striking. But I think Vettori, don't underestimate his striking. I think that he puts it all together very well. He can take a shot very well. But he can stay... He can land some shots as well. You've seen him in the Adesanya fight. Initially, he was getting boxed up, pieced up a little bit. He started to land some strikes, got some takedowns in that fight. But if this stays predominantly on the feet, you have to kind of favour Karl Roberson. I just don't think he's got all that good takedown defense. I think Vettori can get takedowns in this fight, and he has done that in the past where he has mixed it up a little bit, but ultimately he's went to his takedown game and he's looked very heavy on top. He did it against Cesar Ferreira, who big black belt, hard guy to get down there, got him down there, and didn't look really in danger at all. Vitor Miranda in that fight, he really pumped in his takedowns in that one, got a couple in there, and in his last fight against Andrew Sanchez, he was pretty much dominant on the feet, won a very dominant decision there. So how I'm seeing this going, if Roberson can keep it up, and he's a really good kicker, is Roberson. I like his kicking game. It's something that I really, really liked. I've tried to fade him against Roman Kopylov, and when you look back at that, that was a bad bet. Kopylov, in my opinion, just didn't throw enough. I thought he would have threw more in that fight. I thought he would have made it a little bit closer, but he was never in that fight. Roberson fought a really good fight and came through there. And the Wellington Turman one, I actually think, was a good win. Even though I think Turman's got a higher trajectory than what he has. I think Turman's a guy you need to keep an eye on if he sticks around in the UFC, because I think he's got an overall game which can give people fits. But like I say, if this stays standing, I like Roberson, but don't count out Vettori. I like Vettori to mix in here. I just don't like the takedown defense of Roberson. I think he can be taken down by guys pretty comprehensively. I mean, Ferreira got him down. I want to say Teixeira got him down off the top of my head. This is going off the top of my head, guys. And I know Turman got him down a couple of times because I watched that this morning. But I've got Marvin Vettori to win via decision, maybe even a sub. It wouldn't surprise me if he lost via sub here. I think Vettori can maybe find a way to the back and get a rear naked choke. So maybe as a parlay piece, I wouldn't mind Marvin Vettori. But I know a lot of people are on Roberson in this one. I think they see the dog odds, they like the odds. Not for me in this one. I'm going to go with Marvin Vettori. You know what? I'll pick him via sub. I'm actually going to pick him via sub late in the second round in that one there. Another good fight. Ricky Simone against Reborg. Again, I've tried... I thought the last fight against Rogerio Bontorin, I thought Bontorin was going to be too strong, stop the takedowns, and initially start to box him up in the feet. And Bontorin just could not stop the takedowns. And he's a very, very strong guy. What I like about Ricky in this one here, he's a very good scrambler, and he comes from a wrestling background himself. Not too much, I don't think, he is a more natural bantamweight. But he is. I don't think there's much of a difference between them, kind of height and kind of reach wise. But in fact, reach wise, I think that Ricky's a little bit more longer actually, but height wise, not too much. But again, I'm gonna try and fade Reborg, and like I say, I think I've got a thing with stuff like that where dominant grapplers I try to fade, and I don't know why, because I did it with Bryce Mitchell last week. And I made a bet on Charles Rosa, and that was an absolutely horrific bet. A minute into that fight, you could see, because Bryce Mitchell really pieces everything together. He's got a series of moves. He goes to the ground, and he's great at it. And he's going to beat a lot of guys with that. But Borg up at bantamweight again against Ricky Simon, who I think is the better striker. I think he can be a little bit more varied on there, but I also think he can stop takedowns. A little bit maybe more frequently than what Bontorin is, and I think if he was to get to the ground, I think he can get back to his feet quicker. But I also maybe think that Ricky can get him down as well. So, like I said, I can see why Reborg would be kind of a decent looking pick in this, because once he puts it all together, his game is really... What's his line? I want to see what the betting line is on that, because he is an underdog, I'm sure. Oh, I can't really see it. Yeah, I've lost that. But I just think this is going to be one of those fights where Ricky's going to stop some takedowns, and I think once he does, I think that Borg's going to maybe run out of ideas a little bit. But Reborg, I mean, he's a gamer guy. Like I really thought I was onto something good with Bontorin in that fight, and he got, like Charles Rosa last week, he got blasted out the water. Yeah. I'm not sure about that. I'm going to pick Ricky Simone, but not super confident, because you've seen what Reborg brings to the table with his grappling. Like, he really just goes for it, and he doesn't stop either way there. So I'm going to pick Ricky Simone there. via a decision. Alexander Hernandez against Drew Dober. I'm picking Alexander Hernandez here. I think he's wrestling. He can wrestle enough in this fight to win, but if Drew Dober can stop, um, if Drew Dober can stop this fight from hitting the mat, I think he's pretty clearly the better fighter on the feet. I think there's a lot of recency bias on Drew Dober here after his beautiful knockout of Nasrat Haqparast, who pretty much everybody was on for the most part. A couple of sharps out there were on Drew Dober, and respect you for that. But I just don't know whether he's got enough. Hernandez isn't good in his feet, and I think that he's came through some spots where he hasn't looked great. A lot of the things where Hernandez was that he came into the UFC and he beat a big guy straight away. He beat a guy with a bit of name value in Beneil Dariush. But I don't think he looked great in the Auburn Mercy fight. I bet him as an underdog there at plus 125. Like what I've seen in parts of that fight there. Let me just bring that fight up. I made some notes on that one when I was watching. I like the way that he got the fight to the ground, and I like the way he found his way to the back away in the fight. That's something I think that he can do here. I think that Dober will give him opportunities to get to the back if he gets him to the ground. And he can sweep in certain positions as well. The Donald Cerrone fight, I bet Donald Cerrone against Alexander Hernandez. I thought that he was just talking up such a big game. I thought that Cowboy was better in every facet, and I thought if he could stop takedowns, which he did, he was going to get pieced up into oblivion. And Hernandez was just talking out his fucking arse in that fight, and just really put so much pressure on himself that he couldn't really recover from it. And it's just a tailor-made guy for Donald Cerrone to beat on, and he did that there. I also thought that he lost to Francisco Trinaldo. That fight's not in Texas. I think it was a close fight. It wasn't really a great fight, but I thought Trinaldo did more. I think I actually bet Trinaldo in that spot and felt a little bit annoyed that I lost that. But again, he was from San Antonio, Texas, I believe. He got the kind of hometown decision. Where I see this fight going, when you look at Dober, I thought he did well. Beneil tried to get some clinch takedowns in that fight, and I thought he did really well stopping a guy like Beneil Dariush getting those. But I still think he's a little bit susceptible to maybe double legs, and I think that's where Alexander Hernandez can maybe power through and get some takedowns. And I think once he gets there, I think Hernandez can have some top time and be a little bit heavier down there. But Drew Dober seems to be in the best spot of his career. He seems to really be all putting it together. Dan over at Best Fight Picks, Half the Battle on here YouTube, he did a great interview with him, and he seems to be in a really good space. But I've bet Alexander Hernandez. I got him at dog odds. There was some people, initially I seen him at plus 138, and I thought, oh, that to me is off. But I didn't watch any of the fight tape before that. So eventually when I did watch and I saw where the line was at, I got him at plus 110, which I'm still okay about, because I think that he might finish in as the favourite for that fight. But that's where I think he wins this fight. I think that he will get takedowns, he will accumulate some top position. But Dober, he's looked great in his last couple of fights, but I like Hernandez in this one here. I'm going to pick him via decision, maybe even a submission. I think he could find a way there to maybe get the back and maybe get a rear naked choke. But yeah, that's how I'm going that one. I'm going Alexander Hernandez. Co-main event. I mean, what a weird fight this is. Ben Rothwell against Ovince St. Preux. I think I said after my last video that there's no way I'm ever picking Ben Rothwell again. But I don't like the fact that OSP's up at heavyweight. I just don't like this fight in general. I think it's a stinky fight. It's hard to have any confidence in... It's hard to be confident in either guy here. I'm not confident at all. This is going in my least confident picks. What's up, Jason? I see you there, brother. I see my man JT MMA. He's new to the prediction game, but you will know him as Jack Attack. He's been around for a while. Hit that sub button, go and give him some support and help grow his channel a little bit. Yeah, I don't know where to really go with this one, because I think that Ben Rothwell has looked horrific since he's returned to the UFC after that USADA suspension, where he's lost to Blagoy Ivanov, Andrei Arlovski. Then he managed to knock out Stefan Struve, who, his chin's been gone for a while. I honestly don't know. OSP here, obviously he's not going to make that big weight cut that he makes to 205, because he is a big guy. I've seen OSP, he's a really big dude. But he's obviously at a disparity here against Ben Rothwell, who is a natural heavyweight, very, very heavy. But he depleted himself, or the whole thing that he maybe took. He doesn't look all that great now at all. So, honestly, I've really not got a good read in this fight whatsoever. I really, really don't. I think that both guys can be hot at a little bit. I think what I like about OSP is that he might be a little bit more athletic on the feet. He can move around. He can maybe keep his cardio a little bit longer. But again, like last week, I'm still not sure how to look at these fights, because guys have not been in camps, not unless you've got your own home gym, which is something I'm going to talk about a little bit in the next fight coming up in the main event. But Ben Rothwell has that. So it's interesting to see. I've been trying to look at social media. So there's nothing from OSP's side and so on. But if this was to get to the ground, maybe OSP could catch him with one of those chokes. I see people saying Von Flu choke or whatever. Well, Christ, with that guy, you don't know when that could happen. I don't know. I've not got a good read in this fight. I don't really like the fight overall. And someone, I think it was JT MMA, said it was a circus fight. I kind of believe in that a little bit here. So in that spot, I'm going to just take a shot in the dog. It's going to go my least confident picks side. What is the odds on that, actually? Not betting the fight, no way. Plus 120. I'm going to take Ben Rothwell. No confidence whatsoever. Shocking fight. Not looking forward to it at all, really, but it's what it is. The main event, Anthony Smith against Glover Teixeira. Yeah. This is one, I'm actually looking forward to this. I've always been a fan of the doggedness of Anthony Smith, and I've always been a fan of Glover Teixeira, just as an overall fighter. I think that he's got a really good skill set. I obviously think he came into the UFC far too late into his tenure. Yeah, he definitely did. He came into the UFC far too late, but has still been a stalemate or like a stable guy in that UFC 205 division who's fought the best of the best. But when I look at this skill for skill, I like Glover Teixeira a little bit more outside of just the toughness. And where do I see... The one thing that's been you have seen with Glover in the last few years is just a drop off in his durability and physicality. I thought before he definitely looked a lot more stronger, and could maybe get the fight to the mat a little bit easier. But there's certain spots now you've seen in the Krylov fight where he can get sweeped. You never really see that too much in the past, where a guy as good as he is on the ground would get sweeped. And like, he was in some spots against Krylov. I bet Krylov. I still think that Krylov won that fight. But it was very close, and I'm not disputing that he won that. Glover got that fight because it was close initially. But I think skill for skill, he is better than Anthony Smith. But I think Anthony Smith is just tougher, and really, he's got no real quit in him. He's a guy that will keep going. He will take an absolute beating like the John Jones fight. He was never really in that fight, but took a lot of kind of damage and punishment in that fight, but kind of kept himself in it. Like I said, this was the fight that initially was going to happen in Lincoln, Nebraska, which I think is the hometown of Anthony Smith, and I thought that would maybe play a big part. I mean, fighting at home, I think it was his only chance maybe fighting at home, and then they pulled that here. And then he's had a slew of stuff happening. If you don't know, go and have a look at Anthony Smith, the home intruder there. He's had a lot of problems with that guy, who he really... There was a guy that broke into his house. The kids were all there. It was the middle of the night, and then he had to wrestle this guy. I think it was in darkness, and his kids don't feel safe in the house, and they're actually sleeping in the bedroom, and so on. And the fact that he's not been able to go out to Colorado for his gym, for his camp as well. The thing is with Glover, he's had his own gym, so he's been in the same kind of routine, getting ready for fights as he kind of always does. So he's had probably a little bit more of a better routine. I don't know what the routine is kind of like for Anthony Smith, but there's no doubt about it. Anthony Smith is tougher. I think there's a similar reach between them, but Anthony Smith definitely uses it well, and absolutely can use that here. But when you watch the fight, I think it was the Volkan Ozdemir fight, he was on the ground, and Volkan was moving to guard. He moved to guard quite easily, and if you have a guy like Glover in a position like that, he will work his way into finding a submission. Yeah, I think you see where I'm going with this one. I'm going to pick Glover Teixeira. Not super confident because, like I say, I think his physicality and his durability has definitely waned a little bit. But, like I say, I think if it goes into a little bit of a slugging match, I think that Anthony Smith will probably come through in more fights like that. But like I say, I'm not... The line, I think, is a little bit off. I think I seen... Did I see Glover at plus 165 last night? If that continues to rise, I might actually take a shot on something like that. If it goes up past 175, and especially if it's close like plus 200. But there's people out there that are like, I've got a couple of buddies that have max bet Anthony Smith in this spot here, and I'm like, I don't think that's the spot here. I can see why you maybe be confident because, like I say, he is a dog. I love that about Anthony Smith. I've always liked that. Even back in his Strikeforce day, he would take some damage, but he would kind of always keep coming and try to stay in the fight. Sometimes he would get taken out by it. But I would probably just much rather be in the Glover side here. And I've been trying to probably fade Glover Teixeira very recently. I know I probably did it against Krylov. I know I picked him. I think I bet him against Roberson there to win via submission, and he did. But like I say, if this fight starts to go on late, I think that maybe Smith's durability could just maybe better cardio, I don't know, might be there for Smith. But I think skill for skill, I like Glover Teixeira as a fighter far better. I think he's better in most aspects than what Anthony Smith is. Just I think that Anthony Smith is tougher at this point, and I mean, I don't know. It's a tough fight to break down, but I'm going to take a shot on Glover Teixeira. So just looking at that card there, I'm actually picking 3 dogs to win in the last 3 fights, and I took some shots on dogs last week, didn't really work out. I thought Michelle Waterson had an opportunity to win that fight, never went down. Stevens, I thought, fought okay against Qatar, but ultimately got knocked out. And the Charles Rosa one was just a bad bet and a bad pick in Injustice, and Bryce Mitchell showed he's going to be a tough guy to face. So I'm taking some dogs initially to finish out that card there. Hopefully I can get a couple. Like I said, I've got 2 bets. I've got Alexander Hernandez plus 110, and I've got plus 550 on Philippe Lins to win via decision. Hopefully Arlovski just sits back and doesn't really want to fight, and Philippe Lins just lands more and wins the decision. So that's my picks for this card, guys. I'm probably going to get my other fight cards for next Saturday, the Walt Harris Overeem fight out on Wednesday, maybe before this card starts actually. And yeah, it's actually pretty cool having the UFC back and having a run of cards together. Hopefully they can get the other card announced for, I think it's May 23rd out next. That'd be pretty cool. But I hope you're all staying safe. Like I say, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Go subscribe to the other predictors out there on YouTube, and just help kind of grow their channels, and because we need more guys out there. So yeah, hit that like button if you can. If you've got any questions, any comments, any queries, any disagreements, drop a comment down. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But I'll see you all very, very soon. I'm probably going to do a couple of live streams this week if I get the time. Until then, all the very best, and enjoy the fight card when it comes round on Wednesday night. Peace.